During the Vietnam War, 50,000 Australians were involved in the fighting that took place between 1962 and 1972. Of this 50,000, 501 men were killed and a further 2,004 received physical wounds. Most of the men that travelled to Vietnam were scarred psychologically. Few who served returned uninjured. By late 1967, public opinion in Australia had swelled against our involvement in the war. This opinion was propelled by the issue of conscription along with the media coverage of the horrors of the war. Vietnam was a war equalled by no other war, as Tim O'Brien wrote in Going After Casiato. They did not even know the simple things, a sense of victory or satisfaction. They did not know the feeling of taking a place and keeping it, securing a village and then raising the flag and calling it a victory. No sense of order or momentum. No front, no rear, no trenches laid out in neat parallels. They did not even know which villages were critical. They did not know whether it was a war of politics or economics. During the 1972 federal elections, the Vietnam War became a basic issue that would prove to be the issue that won or lost the election for the government. Gough Whitlam, as leader of the Labor Party, made his opposition to conscription known from the beginning of the campaign, and when the party was successful in gaining office, conscription was abolished. In December 1972, the last Australian troops withdrew from Vietnam. The outcome disappointed both Americans and Australians, since North Vietnam gained control over South Vietnam, the issue that had originally sparked the war. On their return, the soldiers of Vietnam were shunned, not even given the homecoming parade that every other generation of soldiers received upon their arrival home. There was no hero's welcome for these men who had been participants in the most ghastly of all wars. On October 3rd, 1987, the Australian Vietnam forces were finally recognised as heroes, with a national reunion and a first welcome home parade in all states of Australia. The sacrifice that these compulsory heroes made was finally remembered publicly by the nation that 15 years earlier had been ashamed at the loss of a war that was really nothing to do with the Australian community. Yet our soldiers were still gallant, a group of men to make this country proud. The purpose of today's remembrance of all wars, but particularly the Vietnam War, is to show that each generation of Australians, ever since colonial days, have made the greatest sacrifice any person can make in order to protect their country. That is, the giving of their blood and their life. Whether in Boer War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Indonesia or Vietnam, the sacrifice has been the same. No war's heroes should be favoured more than another's. Australia's veterans are all alike, a breed of men and women willing to pay the ultimate price to protect the Australian society that we have grown accustomed to. At this time, we should pause and remember that we would not be here if not for our veterans.
Miss Drain, Mr Sattler, Mr Gurry and Mr Nicol will now perform a musical item by John Schumann. I was only 19.